Battlefield Podcast.
Okay, so this is Battlefield Podcast, episode 164. It has been a very, very long time since we last did a podcast. Something like 3 months, maybe more, like an actual Battlefield podcast. With me today, I have Katie, aka Peekaboo Bang. And for those of you who have watched Battlefield Podcast since the very beginning, you might recognize he, aka ChalkTwo.
Hello, guys.
So, I had to sort of rush the setup a bit, so you're only ever going to be seeing one of us. Sorry if that's me. So, we'll talk about Battlefield 4, we'll talk about Hardline, and we'll talk a little bit about Hardline. Probably a little bit more about Dragon's Teeth, because it has been so long. I think the last podcast we did was right after Naval Strike came out. So, we're in this pattern of one podcast per DLC. Apparently. Do I hear music?
You're so easily distracted. You're
sitting
just like, what?
Right.
What did I do?
And completely ignoring me. You can't actually see me wave over there. Okay. Why don't we start talking about Dragon's Teeth first then? It's been out for, I think, about a month now or so.
Yes.
And, we had, Katie, you and I, we talked about Dragon's Teeth beforehand and sort of what sort of our hopes were for the DLC, as far as it being more urban combat based, more infantry based. What do you think so far? Like, did it meet our expectations? Did it come close? Is it any good?
It's totally different than I think what you and I were thinking as far as urban warfare. I mean, the maps are more infantry friendly, and like Pearl Market is very, it's very reminiscent of Flood Zone, but I think it's better done as far as rooftops and being able to, kind of go, boots on the ground or rooftop to rooftop, or, there's quite a few different options as far as how you're going to play and attack a objective. So I think it's really different from what we were hoping it was going to be, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad different.
Yeah, I think that's about right. It didn't really get to sort of, we were talking about maybe some maps similar to Grand Bazaar from BF3. Didn't really get that. Like you said, Pro Market's close-ish and very similar to Flood Zone, especially the rooftops. Luckily, you can't flood the damn streets.
No.
I'm thankful for that, because that I always thought was pretty annoying. So the other maps, there's 4 maps in total. We got a bunch of new weapons. We got a new game mode called Chain Link. Yeah, which is, what are your thoughts on, have you played much Chain Link?
I think I played a couple times, and I like the fact that you link all the flags up in order to get the enemies or our flag or the scores.
Yeah,
go down or keep it up to the extended point of time. So it's a good mode, I think, to play on.
It's a really fast game mode, I find. Like, I know we've gone into servers where it's like 2,000 tickets, and I'm thinking, oh my god, this is going to be taking forever. But it doesn't, actually, because if you link together a few flags, the points seem to drain really quickly, which is nice. I like that game mode, actually. It's one of my favorite ones, and it doesn't really have so much to do with the linking of it. That's almost secondary. I mean, I'll look at the mini-map to see where I want to go next based on that a little bit, but it's not the sole deciding factor. I like the fact that it's so fast-paced, that the cap times are quick, and you can just kind of, it fits my play style of basically going from objective to objective and just circling around and capping flags over and over and over again.
You love to flag jump. Like, I've noticed that even before. Like, you really like to bounce back and forth between objectives, so this really is right up your alley.
I've always done that, even in BF3. That was one of the gripes I have with some of the BF4 maps. They're not very conducive to that. There's so many obstacles, and when they came out with Second Assault, I was thinking, okay, sweet, we get some of those classic maps. Caspian Border was one of my favorite ones for flag hopping in BF3, and that wall in BF4 completely ruined that for me. So, and I know you don't like the wall very much.
No, and my tweet the other day basically explains exactly how I feel about that wall.
Yeah. So, all in all,
that was also too why I really liked the close quarters maps, because they were, especially with, if you got into a TDM server, they were very, flag hoppy. And something you and I talked about the other day was like, it's all PTFO all the time. Like that game mode like forces the PTFO to a point. You're still gonna have the dumbass in the back with the freaking Mav, but I mean, it almost forces that cohesion of your team because everybody's trying to do the same thing.
Yeah. Any favorite maps in the DLC? Or least favorite ones? I've already seen some comments in the chat about least favorite maps.
Everybody hates Sunken Dragon. I'm not a fan of that map. But
Me
only
neither.
really, it's really bad on certain game modes. Like what were we playing? A TDM server with that? And
Right, where it's all in the restaurant or whatever that is.
Not my favorite at all.
I can't see anybody. It's so dark.
It is very dark inside that map in certain areas. And the map itself it's not all bad. There are some areas like the garages in that area of the map I quite like. You can have some good gameplay happening there. But the part of the Sunken Dragon Hotel, that itself is sort of really frustrating, especially on a large map when you've got water going on. I don't know. It's sort of one of those, hey, this would be cool to do, but I don't think there was a lot of thought into how that would actually play out. Not sure.
Yeah, and it's not quite like the water action going on in that map isn't quite like Flood Zone, from where it's, when it's flooded, it's flooded. It's, it's player controlled. So it's like, you never can count on what's going to be going on with that. And, there's always 6 people over there trying to, it's, it's just a nightmare. Yeah. But we played, what was it? We were playing Obliteration the other day on that map, and it was actually pretty
Obliteration was not bad. I'm surprised sometimes by Obliteration when it can be fun. We also played it on Pearl Market, and it wasn't bad there either.
Yeah. I think my favorite are either going to be Pearl or Propaganda. I'm like neck and neck with those two.
I like Propaganda and Chainlink because it's almost very linear, but there are lots of flanking routes along the side. That's not a bad map. In Conquest, where you have the entire map, it becomes a bit of a clusterfuck at times as well. But that's common. That's almost like a common factor on all Battlefield maps. If you get 64 players on Conquest Large, it's going to be a clusterfuck somewhere. So, what about you, Heed? You got a favorite map or one that you don't like?
I agree with you two. Propaganda and the Pearls Market, and Pearls Market for the link mode. I like that one. And in a link mode, the flag goes pretty fast down, fast up, so you could just, like you said, Ola could hop in and stuff like that, flag hop, and get all the points.
Chat mentions that TDM spawns are horrible on, what is it, Lumphin Garden? Lumpini, is it? Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
That map's interesting in certain game modes because have you noticed the evolution on that one? It like piles out all that mud.
The mud.
It's like a ramp up to that sort of SkyTrain or whatever that is. Yeah.
Kind of like a monorail type deal.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Luckily, the other maps don't really have a lot of Levolution. Like, I don't think there's any major Levolution events on any of the other maps. I mean, there's a train, which you can be gotten by. You don't pay attention. We don't go fast enough.
I think I got run over by that train.
I have yet to, knock on wood, get run over by that thing, but...
Well, you make me get run over by that thing.
No. I said go, you didn't go, and you went splat, so you hesitated. Don't freaking hesitate.
Well, make sure you look left.
I should have looked left because I got hit from the left.
Didn't your mother ever tell you to look before you cross the railroad tracks? Silly sniper, you know.
And it's still always the same train that goes by, so.
Yeah. It would be. I've seen videos of people trying to stop the train, like they'd pile up tanks and all sorts of stuff in front of it. It's not. You can't. It's just unstoppable.
Can you derail the trains?
No.
That would have been sweet if you could do that, though.
That would have been awesome.
I did find me a happy little glitch spot though in one of the trains.
The flames.
Yeah, it's not really a glitch. It's just, I mean, it's you can in the fuel tank one. Once you bust it open, you can kind of sit back in the back and hide in the flames, and they don't hurt you, and you can just kind of hide back there and
Yeah,
you know
there's like a
wreck.
little bug where you're in the fire, but you're not actually. It's not reacting on your character.
Yeah, you can kind of.
And speaking of the propaganda maps, being a Korean, well, South Korean, I think the Korean makes sense, and all that font and lettering and the
Oh,
flags,
yeah, I never thought of that.
it totally makes sense. I don't know who did it, the voiceover, but
Well, they probably got a Korean person to do it.
probably, but not the North Korea.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. It's always bad when you have a game and they use other languages, whether it's in writing or in spoken form, and when you know what it should sound like and you listen to it and you just know it's wrong, that's always poor. It's not that difficult to hire a voice actor to do whatever was required. So, what about the weapons? Have you played with the RAR at all? The little bot? No.
No, I haven't played with it. I'm just not a remote control player. Like I don't like to remote in and take some little.
It's actually really powerful, and I
It
found
is
so many
very
people
wicked.
ignore it. I've played and gotten like 10, 15 kill streaks with it because people ignore it. You're literally standing in the middle of the street with that thing, and there's guys running by, and it's got that minigun on it, which is pretty powerful. The challenge always is finding a spot to lay down to control it from where someone's not going to run into you. So, but it's pretty fun. It's an
I'm just
interesting little addition.
I'm not a fan of like one of my rules of is of playing Battlefield is never go prone or never be on your belly unless you know someone has your back. And in a game like that, you can't count on someone having your back. So I'm
No.
never I'm probably you're probably never going to see me do that or an EOD bot or you know what I mean? Like it's just not gonna happen.
No, the EOD bots, I don't. That's too boring as well. But this one
I
is a little bit of fun.
Yeah. I do really like the Bulldog though.
The Bulldog gets a bad rap. It's a pretty good gun, but a lot of people hate it. Like I've used it a few times to unlock certain things, and people complain that oh, Bulldog, blah blah.
It's very AEK Asvel to me in the way that it just eats ammo. Like it's an ammo whore of a gun, and but it's pretty wicked. Like I enjoy using it. I don't always use it, but
What about the Desert Eagle? Did you ever get to unlock the Desert Eagle? Have you?
no, I
You
haven't
haven't
had
done it
time.
yet?
We've been no.
Because that was the other new weapon. So there's two pistols, the Unica 6 and the Desert Eagle, and you have to get 5 kills in the water with the Unica. Which
Right. Well, the problem with that for me is getting the kills in the water because it's like I'm very rarely in the water while I'm playing the objective. And that's what I'm 99% of the time I'm doing. So I'm not just going to hang out in the water and wait for some, schmuck to come by so I can kill him. I think I've got like 2 kills to go on that or whatever, but it's a very rare occasion or has been for me because it's only on that one map, isn't it? Or
no, you can
can
do
you
it.
do it
You can do it
sunken?
on all the maps, but there's not really much water. I mean, 2 of the maps don't have any water at all, and then there is Lumfini Garden has sort of those rivers, the little creeks, and then you have Sunken Dragon, where if there is water, if you happen to be there at that moment, you should have done it in the very beginning when the DLC first came out, because everybody was in the water.
Right,
It
everybody
was
was
much
trying to do
easier
it. Yeah,
because everyone was trying to get that because the Desert Eagle is such a powerful handgun in the
I
game.
do want it. I'm still a fan of my Rex though. I'm a Counter Strike kitty though, so I really do want my Deagle. I really, really, really do. So maybe I'll work on that later.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about locking anything. I just need to get my kills up.
So yeah, you haven't gone after any special weapons. There's also a sniper
Nope.
rifle, which is meh. I'm not a big recon player, anyways, but it's a bolt action sniper rifle that feels more like a semi-automatic, though. It's a little strange. The Bulldog's cool. The RAR is good as it's just a battle pack to pick up. The maps in general, I think, so much of it depends on the game mode. Some of the maps are horrible in certain game modes. Like you mentioned, Sunken Dragon and TDM is awful.
I thought Lumpini on Rush was actually really good.
That's the one where we played 2 rounds back to back on both sides, and it was really close. Like, it was really good gameplay.
We won both sides, but I mean, it was really. Or no, did we have to draw the first round? Maybe.
No, I think we won them both.
No, I think you're right.
But they weren't blowouts. Usually Rush.
No.
So often you get blowout rounds where either the attackers or the defenders have way too much of an advantage.
And they almost had us on that first set of MCOMs. Do you remember? Because the music was starting to play, and then we managed it at the end there. But I like that map on Rush. I'm not really a big fan of that map in general, but on Rush, it's pretty good.
Rush is one of those game modes that's so hit and miss. Like, so much of it can depend on the people that you're playing with, because a lot of them, some maps are awful in Rush, the way the MCOMs are located, especially in some of the vanilla maps. But yeah, on Lumpini Garden, it was quite good. What else did we play it on? We played it on Sunken Dragon after that. I think we had Rush there, which wasn't bad. Mm-hmm. Again, so much of it depends on your teammates. It can be awesome one round, and then the next round, exact same map, just to be a completely different experience.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
We had a... Sorry, go.
No, you go.
We got lucky with a good squad that, we all just managed to mesh well together. And that's, like, for me, that's kind of like the pinnacle of moments in Battlefield, when you get dropped in a squad of randoms and you guys just all get it.
Yeah, even without having to overtly communicate. Like, it's just that it just works. People spawn on the squad leader, people sort of cover each other, and it feels natural, and it doesn't feel forced. You don't have to yell at people, I was going to ask you, what's your favorite weapon in the game? Like, what do you usually play with?
I usually play with MTAR, or the what was the other one that I liked? I can't remember right now, but I got two favorite. But generally, I play with MTAR. Yeah, it's just accurate for me to do it with. So,
Addison mentioned in the chat that assignments in general are a disgrace. I know we've had this conversation. we've talked about the Gall Magnum in particular, and how that assignment was ruining any kind of reasonable gameplay on that map at the time. I think it's quieted down a bit in Dragon's Teeth now. I think most people that wanted those, water kills really badly got them. I think everybody that wanted to push the button that cared about it went and pushed the button, because like you said, they used to be like a lineup of people. I remember being up there, and I shot a buddy of mine, Can, a couple times when he came in, because he was on the other team, and we had this little thing going. We're like, okay, we'll wait for you here. Just let us know when you're coming up. And he wouldn't let us know, and we shot him. He's like, this is me. I was going to push the fucking button. But,
I actually haven't played that map since we unlocked the gold Magnum. Since we did that assignment run, I was like, no, I'm never going back. Like,
I haven't either.
Nope.
I much prefer those assignments that are more natural, where it's certain tasks that you have to complete. Speaking of, do we want to talk about the Phantom Prospect stuff at all?
We can.
I mean,
since you brought it up, and we've been tweeted by Kevin Simpson over there, so we may as well.
So we spent, 3 days trying to figure that out? The last one?
Way too much brain power and time trying to figure that out. Oh my god, that was such a nightmare.
It was. I was annoyed. I was extremely annoyed by the end of that one. More so than the other ones before. But anyways. Russian BF3 wasn't a big thing for me either.
I didn't mean all Rush was good either. I just meant on that particular map we had a good experience. I haven't played much Rush on the DLC, the new DLC, so I can't really speak to whether it's always shitty or always great, but we had a really good couple of rounds in Rush on that map, and I actually thought the way that Rush map was laid out, like the way the objectives were really well done, at least as far as Rush goes. So I'm generally not a big fan of Rush anyway, but just that particular, one was I was actually a little surprised that it just wasn't completely shitty right off the bat. So I was pretty pleased with how it went. But
MCOM placement was one of the biggest criticism, I think, for Rush in BF4. There were some maps where it was just so bad. And that's one thing I felt on Dragon's Teeth, that the MCOM placement was better. They weren't too far apart. They weren't too close together. It was sort of just right in the sweet spot where it should be. I never meant to ask you about what your favorite gun was. I don't care. I was going to ask you what your favorite game mode was. In general, like, you usually play what?
Well, I play Conquest just because I know the mode so well, but I like the chain link. It's fun. TDM depends on what kind of BF game you play, I guess. But generally, I play Conquest mode.
So, speaking of TDM, we're trying to play BF4. We're trying to play BF4. The other, I just nodded. I'm just like, yeah, very stealthy. I got this. We were gonna play BF4 yesterday, and on your laptop it runs not very well, right? So we decided to see if we could find like a small TDM game, like 24 or 32 players. And there's nothing. Like, I don't know what's going on with the amount of servers, if people are just not renting them much anymore. But I find it so difficult to find certain game modes that aren't 64-man Conquest, 24/7 Op Locker, or Operation Metro. You know, in BF3, you'd find servers all the time where it was just 32-player TDM or 24-player Rush, and they wouldn't be super popular, but they'd be populated and people were playing on them. Whereas with BF4, every time I look at the server browser, I have a really hard time finding servers that I want to play on, because I don't always want to play in a large Conquest game.
I find that the modes, like, I play one server and there are 64 people in that server, and there are 5 people waiting for that server, and some of the servers are empty, and all the time it's empty. And I just wonder, like, why is it happening? Is it because people know the server, or people knows the people? And just interesting. Like, I know a couple of them that's really full all the time, and most all of them never gets to see more than 20 people in the server.
Yeah, I was just talking to... that could be. I think maybe people favorite servers and frequent the same server more often because they've had so much bad luck in the past. About, you know, with certain servers running crappy and whatnot. The game needs official servers, going to and says maybe. That's a double-edged sword, though. On consoles, that was always a curse, official servers, because they would always only run the most popular game modes. And I don't know. I just wanted like a 24-man TDM server or something like that. Or even, I have never played Capture the Flag in BF4. I can't find a server if I wanted to. It's just not there. I can find 12 24/7 Metro servers.
That's right.
You know, it just seems like the variety of servers is so much lower than it was in BF3, and I suspect it still is. I think BF3 now still has a greater variety of servers.
Well, I just played BF3, and then there were a couple servers that were, you know, live. I don't know how many servers are there, but
lots of people are still playing BF3. Lots of people keep going back to BF3 because it doesn't... I mean, it has its own issues. It has suppression and all sorts of other things, but...
Well, and right now it's a little... I mean, it's a little busier over there because the game's free.
Yes.
Or it was, or...
That's
so
funny.
you have this kind of influx all of a sudden of a bunch of new players to try it out, so...
Yeah. And yeah, Ratchet, you can mix maps from vanilla and various DLCs in the rotation. But BF4 does something stupid. Does it now just boot you out, or does it not let you in? I think it doesn't let you in. If you try to join a server in BF4 that uses a DLC that you don't have, you can't join it. It will tell you require X DLC. In BF3, it let you play as long as it wasn't on that map, and if you got to that map that you didn't have, it just booted you out. So I don't know. I mean, I just want more variety. There are so many maps. We have all these damn DLCs. So many maps, so many game modes, and you can't play anything. Okay, Cookies, maybe they fixed that. I was wrong. But it used to be like that, because I remember that. I don't know. That's what gets me, and honestly, I can only play so much of the same maps over and over, or even the same game modes. Like when we played Rush, Katie, that was sort of a novelty. Like it's like we don't ever play Rush, and we looked at it and we're like, oh look, this server looks okay, and it's on Rush, so why the hell not try it? It's a new DLC, let's check it out. And it was actually fun, but I bet you couldn't find a Rush server for Second Assault now.
It was a server that had people in it.
That
was kind of why we chose it, because I was like, well, it's not. I mean, it's like what was it, 48 players, 40?
Yes,
It wasn't too big.
No, it wasn't 64, because 64 we try to avoid unless we really sort of feel sorry for ourselves or something. 48's a good number most of the time. 40 was also a good number in BF3. So, I don't know. I just want a little bit more variety. And I think part of that is that in BF3, every clan was renting a server. Everybody was renting a server. Yeah, and then
we had one for about a month when BF4 came out, and we were like,
and then you dropped
this crap. Yeah. And then I have a buddy he never dropped his BF3 server. It was the one we were playing in the other night with Ruckus. And he was like, well, we've been kind of thinking about getting a BF4 server for the guys that play, but he was kind of like, why? I don't think I could keep it full. Like, they would probably run Metro, so they could probably keep it full. But
yeah. But that was definitely a big thing with console servers originally, when you couldn't rent them, because all the official servers would run more or less the same game modes, like the top, the popular maps and the popular game modes. So usually you get the variety of different servers and game modes from people renting them, because some people really love Rush, because they they came up through Bad Company 2 or something, and they're players, and that's out there, so they'll just play their server on Rush most of the time, or they'll change it whenever they feel like it. They're like, oh, well, today let's play Obliteration, let's play Domination, let's play Capture the Flag just for fun. When you have official servers, they hardly ever change. So, and there seems to be just a lot less variety of servers in BF4, because I think people don't rent them. Maybe they started to in the beginning, and then they got turned off and said screw it, and they might still be playing the game now, but they're not willing to spend what isn't necessarily very cheap to rent a server. So you lose out on that, whereas in BF3 there used to be a lot more variety. I miss that.
Well, looking at my stats, I played Conquest the most, like I said. And the next one, I see the domination modes, and it's like 100 times more for the Conquest that I played. I got 1.3 million points, or whatever the thing is, and then I got domination 13,000 points. So I'm thinking just because I have more points of Conquest doesn't mean that I like more, but there are more servers there to just join in, I think. And the other modes, they just don't have the server. Like, even if I wanted to play Chainlink, I can't find a server. So
yeah, even some of the new game modes, like Chainlink, can be difficult to find, or Rush on new DLCs. And the other day I was looking for any kind of, I had Conquest Large, Domination, Chainlink, Rush, all checked, and all I wanted was a small server. So I had checked 16, 24, 32 for the player size. All the DLCs, but not the vanilla. I was even willing to play China Rising, for God's sake, and there was no server. They just said, nope, no servers found. It's like, okay, well, guess I'll do something else. So that is a bit of a reflection, I think, of the state of Battlefield 4. So, you want to talk anything else about Dragon's Teeth? Anything else you guys want to mention?
No.
Okay.
I still really wish we had that hangar map, though.
From the single player.
That you and I had wanted. I still really wish that had been in this game, in this DLC.
Well, we still have one DLC to go.
Yeah, well, I'm not holding my breath.
No, I'm still wondering when we're going to get a Wake Island for Battlefield 4. We have to.
Now there's an idea. I love Wake.
Don't you think they would have done it in Second Assault? Like, why wouldn't they have done that in Second Assault? Unless they bring it to an end and it's in Final Stand. I mean, that's their only time now to put Wake Island in.
I don't think they'll
And
work it in
I think
logically.
they've, huh?
I don't think they'll work it in logically in any sort of way. I just want that map.
I think you and I were talking about this the other day, but there's really not a logic to much of what's going on.
No. I've even lost the thread as far as storyline goes with BF4. Because, you know, suddenly we've got naval strikes, so we're on a bunch of islands and stuff like that. They could have included Wake Island then. Even. They could have done it in Second Assault. I'm
that would have
off
been
my
cool.
soapbox.
That would have been really cool to have that in
with carrier
to have Wake
assault.
Island there. Yes, that would have been wicked. But they didn't do it. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know.
But just by looking at the chat, everybody's like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. You mentioned Wake Island, people go, I'd reinstall BF4 for that. They would.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why they haven't done that. So maybe they'll still do that. It's been in
and then
pretty much
Ratchet
every
just said
version.
Paracel Storm is the new Wake Island. If Paracel Storm is the new Wake Island, then I'm the fucking new Scarlett Johansson, which is
that's not the
or
same
Lady Gaga or something
Wake
horrible.
Island.
I don't know, with the meat dress or something. That's
No, you can't. Paracel Storm is not. You can't replace Wake Island. Wake Island is Wake Island. I mean, in 2142, they created a 2142 version of it. That's, you know, it's still Wake Island. They updated some of the buildings and stuff, and it's always moved a little bit. But Wake Island is that classic 5-flag version. I mean, they went through the trouble in BF3 to update it because people wanted 5 flags, and there was such an outcry for it. So it's one of those classic maps that I would love to play more of, and I don't know why they just don't. It should have probably most logically been part of Second Assault, even though they meant for that to be classic BF3 maps, which in itself was kind of silly, because it's like, you know, classic maps from the game that came just before. That's like calling your 2004 car vintage. You know, it's 10 years old, it's vintage. No, it's a piece of shit in my driveway. It's not vintage.
I thought they just said the favorite maps, which I don't know who came up with those, because I could have picked a different rotation.
Yeah, I think everybody had issues with the ones that they picked for that. Operation Metro was a given just because of the popularity of the amount of players playing them. But I know we've gone through this before as well. But I still would like to see Wake Island in Final Stand. I don't think we'll get it. I'd like for them to. They should have just released that for free. Like at one point, you know how when there were all the issues and everybody was crying out and saying we should just get a free DLC. They could have just thrown Wake Island at us. They could have taken the one from BF3 and not changed a thing. And they
that
would have
give
made
us a lot of people playing that game again.
Yeah, they would have been like 30% of people who were bitching about stuff would have been like, okay, whatever. I'm good now. I got Wake Island. Happy. So.
A lot of servers returning too.
Yeah, Wake Island is one of those maps that would get run 24/7 on servers. There's only ever a handful of maps that get the 24/7 treatment, right? Operation Metro. Back before that, it was Strike at Karkand and in BF2. You'd have a lot of those 24/7 servers. Operation Locker. But I wouldn't be able to play 24/7. And Wake Island would be a 24/7 map as well. There's probably 5 over the course of Battlefield history that would frequently get that treatment. Possible free map at the end, Addison says. I don't know. I'd love that, but maybe we'll get it in Hardline.
Before the Hardline.
Yeah. Well, Battlefield 4 will be done by the time Hardline comes out, because they pushed that back now to February.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get Final Stand sometime later this fall. We'll be done with BF4 then. Now, we just had Gamescom and they showed a bunch of footage. They showed 12 minutes of single-player footage from Hardline. They showed a little bit more about some certain game modes for sort of like a competitive game mode, which they had to sneak in there. I don't know what the obsession. I know you played competitive stuff more than I did, Katie. But it seems like nowadays it's like you make a game, you better have some sort of competitive game mode.
Yeah, it's kind of a lifeblood. I mean, it's kind of how it gets exposure too I think especially when I was really heavily into Counter-Strike, I always viewed the Battlefield crowd as an older crowd, like as a more mature, older group of people, and they were like it was a different gameplay style. Like the difference in how it was competitive was huge to me. Now, of course, the games themselves are obviously very different, but for FPS game, like I just thought Battlefield was like a monstrosity of a game. It was huge, and and I did play back then a lot of Battlefield, a lot of Day of Defeat, a lot of enemy territory. So that was kind of I think now with when you look at how huge COD has a competitive like foothold in the competitive community, like how huge it is. Like you have kids that are in high school getting paid to do this. Like, you know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
for kids now it's this pinnacle. Like, and they follow these teams like they're football teams. Like they have fans, they have,
Groupies?
merchandise. They have I mean
Yeah.
it's crazy. I mean, it's almost like they're basketball players or football players. I mean, it's so huge now. Like even more than when I was, working for CPL and adminning tournaments and running tournaments. It's even, I mean, you had your few standout teams and you had your favorite team and whatnot, but it was not to the level of what it is now. And so I think they're really trying to compete there. Especially too, CS:GO is having a lot of, quality movement as far as the competitive scene there, bringing Counter-Strike back onto the scene.
And I see a lot of even non-competitive Battlefield players going to Counter-Strike Go, just for I guess the better gunplay and I just looking at my Steam list of friends and the people that used to play Battlefield, whether they used to do YouTube content or just be hardcore Battlefield players, a lot of them are going to CS:GO, and CS:GO is not a new game. I mean, it's been out they just had an anniversary, 2 years, I think. In that iteration, of course, Counter-Strike itself is ancient by comparison. Well, not in a bad way. You just gave me a look like I called you old or something.
Yes,
like
I
that.
did. But yeah, I mean, well, and then like I switched over to Insurgency for a little while when I was just done with BF4 for a little bit and just couldn't even look at it because playing it was such a beatdown. And Insurgency was great because I mean, there's no mini map. I mean, it's really like you got to confirm your kills. You got to get your shit done. You have to really work with your squad to make sure, what you're doing is being done. And I mean, it really focuses on the gunplay there, on the strategy. And
so they've been trying to bring this into Battlefield 4, and that's been talked about a lot, and then they added small Obliteration as a game mode because Obliteration was their the competitive game mode basically. You do have level BF and they have tournaments where they do 64 player conquest and stuff like that, but most of the competitive stuff is usually on smaller groups, smaller teams, right? So they added that. I actually kind of might want to veer back a little bit to Battlefield 4 before we get too far into Hardline. I wanted to use this to talk about the game mode called Rescue that they introduced at Gamescom. But I guess I was going to talk about CTE, but we can get to that after. So they introduced that. They showed off some footage of that, which looked very similar to, it's basically a hostage rescue. You got one team that's hostage takers, the other ones have to rescue them. So that's pretty typical of Counter-Strike in a way.
Which is so funny because as a Counter-Strike player and as someone that, ran tournaments, we never used the hostage maps in rotation. And I absolutely hated hostage maps. Like, beyond anything, I thought they were horrible.
You just had the diffuse maps?
Well, yeah, basically, the typical bomb site A, bomb site B map was what we used. And I hated hostage maps.
Well, part of that was because the hostage AI was so bad.
Oh, they were dumb as shit. Like, I mean, they just walk into a wall and stand there, and then you'd have to go back and get them. And like, I mean, but that was also, it brought in its own, gameplay with the hostage maps because, I remember they talked or said something when you got them, so
Yes.
you could give away your position if you were trying to be sneaky about it. You know, much like the voiceovers in Battlefield 3, if you threw down an ammo box, you know, here's your ammo, and it's like, well, if the dude didn't know you were around that corner a minute ago, he sure as shit does now. Like,
So that rescue mode reminded me a lot of that. It also reminded me a lot of the recent footage of Rainbow Six Siege that we saw, which still I think looks like a great game. I'm really looking forward to that. As a small not competitive, but like as a small shooter that I can play with 4 or 5 other people on TeamSpeak, and as a tactical game, that looks like a winner to me. This rescue mode in Hardline, I don't know. You watched the trailers. What did you think? Does it have potential? Aside from the fact that wearing the hostage like a backpack looked ridiculous, but that could have just been like an early thing where they're like, ah, crap, we don't want to have the hostage following. Like, we don't want to have the same problems. Let's just throw them on their back. I'm like, we don't have an animation for that. Let's make
you
them a backpack.
can't really like caveman the hostage, because then you don't have a gun arm, and you can't be, you know, one arm wielding, you know.
Well, but you also can't just have them, you know, riding you like a 6-year-old. That's not. I don't think that's how that's done.
I don't think at all it's how a SWAT would extract a, you know, a hostage, but it makes sense why they used that mechanic for the hostage, because you don't have a dumbass AI that you have to deal with and program and do. And then if you are utilizing any sort of zip lines, I mean, they're going to have to hold on to you or go without you somehow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I get why they went there, and I appreciate it. And, you know, that's fine. I don't think, I mean, yeah, it looks a little silly, but I mean, I think it's a little, you know, to get the game mode to work, that was what they had to do. And
Yeah,
I get it.
I agree. I'm a little bit worried though. Because we know that obviously Frostbite engine has some challenges and stuff. So all that aside though, I think once again there's a lot being bitten off here. You've got single player, which actually looked pretty good. We can talk about that in a minute. They showed 12 minutes of it, and that's what I'm most excited for. Actually, is the single player.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that, to see what Visceral has done with that, because the 12 minutes of footage was, for me, it was like,
it was
drool.
good.
Like,
It was very story driven. There were some mechanics in it that I thought were weird. Like there's one part at the beginning of the trailer where he's like, we're gonna take this guy out silently, and you know, he throws the coin and he takes him out stealthily.
well, no, it was ammo. It was a casing.
Ammo,
It was a bullet
casing.
casing. But in the footage, you can tell he's trying to show off things in the map, because he purposefully will get shot and go a certain way so that he can blow a fuel tank.
Right.
I mean, you can tell he's trying to show off like what the map is capable of. Clearly, it's a gameplay. You want to show people what it can do, what's in there. And I think the gameplay experience will probably be different. You know, I don't know where everything's at yet, other than
Yeah, and
the
you're
12
not going to stand there and
minutes.
take bullets just so that you can wait for the enemy to walk over to the propane tank.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I'm probably way overreacting.
I think the freeze thing is a little silly.
I like that. It's silly, but it's cool if it works in single player. You could never do that in multiplayer. Could you imagine? You just get shot in the face after you get laughed at for a second.
I don't know how it's gonna. I don't know.
That whole sort of the non-lethal takedowns are going to
Let
be
me.
interesting,
Okay,
I
so
think.
guy's trying to get his gear, trying to get his gun. All he has is a pistol on him, right? Or a shotgun maybe that he picked up, and his badge, and his little phone scanner.
Yeah, because they left him with like the most advanced smartphone in the world.
Exactly. He walks up to 2 dudes with fucking fully automatic, I assume, weapons, and he's like, freeze.
Oh, sorry, the badge. It made me not.
And they're like, oh no, I'm not with those guys. My bad. Nope. We'll put my guns down. No biggie. And how many fucking pairs of handcuffs does this guy have? Like, is
Jab
it
straps.
like?
Were they actual handcuffs?
Handcuffs.
They were handcuffs.
Handcuffs.
It's like, I mean, yeah, the zip ties would have been
So, but see,
better, but they're freaking handcuffs. I mean, what is this guy? A real BDSM freak? Like, what are we getting ourselves into with this
that's what
game?
I'm
Like,
worried a little bit about, because if the single player is supposed to be immersive and good at storytelling, it has to not have some of those gaps in it. So I'm a little bit worried about some of that, because some
I'm
of it
not.
was...
I think. I mean, yeah, I'm making fun of it right now, but I think Visceral has a good. They've done good single players in the past. I think they have a good track record with it.
They do, but they've all been in space. No, I'm just okay. Never mind. So, but the 12 minutes was pretty good. But back to my point of me being worried about them doing too much. So you got single player, which hopefully, if it's done really well, will have taken quite a bit of time. You got multiplayer, and we played it in the beta, and it was fun. It was enjoyable. I think the best way that people described it was it was fun. Even Scanner, it happens to be in the chat, even Scanner had fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they add in a competitive type game mode. Like, are they just doing too much again? Can we not just have a fun game?
My whole gripe with them doing too much was the 5 fucking platforms, and they're doing it again.
I don't know why they're doing it again on the old gen. They really shouldn't be.
Well,
I mean,
because
I know why they
really, I
do it
don't think there's
financially.
that many people that have bought into new gen to next gen. I did, and I'm like, why? Why did I do that?
Right, but
That was
so
dumb,
you can say that on the one side they'll keep doing it for the old ones so that people are on there so that they have access to that larger market. But on the other hand, why would somebody on a 360 or PS3 want to upgrade to a next gen console if they keep getting games for that? The differences are not that great.
That Dice or Visceral or EA don't give a shit about whether or not they upgrade.
They should. It's their money too. Well,
they don't. No, they don't. They don't make shit off of an Xbox One sale.
No, only the exclusives and shit like that. But I mean,
yeah, but
it would make development easier, because all you hear developers talk about is how annoying it is to do.
That's the only difference. And maybe their overhead with, they're paying the human resources hours to have people, make sure that it works well on, to design a game for 360, PS3, PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
And support it, patch it.
Right.
Scanner just said in the chat that Hardline will do just fine. If BF4 sold as well as it did, it will be absolutely fine. He's right. Battlefield 4 sold well. You can argue about the quality of the game all you want, but financially it was fine for EA. So I'm sure Hardline's going to be fine too. I always wonder what's next after Hardline, but
now you're like
jumping all over the place.
You're putting the cart before the horse. Like,
there is no horse. It's just carts. All I have is carts. What do you want me to do?
You're putting the dump the horse took 10 miles back before the cart before the horse. Like, I'm just gonna sit over here.
You didn't play the Hardline beta, did you? But you watched the trailers today. What did you think of it? And is that something you'd buy?
Yeah, I would buy it, but I was gonna ask you guys, what is fun? Like, I watched the clip, the 12-minute clip. Yes, it looked fun, but if you actually played it, you should have more describable fun.
I had tons of fun in the beta.
But why? Why is it fun?
The wicked crazy command truck is awesome. I mean, we did spend quite a bit of time launching the motorcycles, off off C4 and into the frickin' 405. But
leaning out of the car window with your gun out is
awesome. That mechanic right there just was sweet. The fact that was in there, tasing people.
I've never managed to do that.
That was so much fun. And zip lines are great. Those were fantastic. I mean, if you wanted to be Batman in Hardline, you can freaking do it. You can zip line, drop off, grab someone.
Now, can you fall off from it? Like, somebody could shoot it down, or while they're zipping down? Whee!
You can get shot while zip lining.
Well,
kind of like a ladder, but
yeah, I think any of the BF mode was like that. But can you actually shoot them?
Like, can you actually
while on it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't use it a whole lot, but
yeah, I shot. You can shoot when you're going down. Can't you?
Yeah. Yes,
I'm almost 1,000% positive of that.
I think so.
With your secondary, maybe, I think. It's been a while. I've slept since then.
And they're saying also that you can do that. So
All right.
you can shoot the zip line to break it.
Yep. And then break it, and then somebody would fall and then die.
Yeah.
Huh.
Unless you set up the zip line, like from the curb to the road, because you can do that too. Then you'll be pretty safe because you're basically zip lining at 8 inches off the ground. So there's that. You can do that.
Huh.
Love the police cars.
Yeah, those are fun. And yeah.
See, that's part of the fun thing. Like the maps were cool. It's kind of fun to run around and have like money laying all over the place, and the back and forth of people stealing it from your vault and you stealing it from their vault. Like some of those game modes were not that they were familiar, right? Because they're very similar to certain Battlefield 4 game modes. The mechanics were very similar, but there's just a little bit of a twist on it that made it entertaining. So I think it's going to be one of those games that's fun. That literally is just fun. You're just going to sit and play that, probably not for 5 hours a day, but you'll play that for maybe an hour after work, just to relax for a bit, have some fun, and then you're good.
So what are their modes? Is there like a cop and robbery type of thing, or cop and criminals type of thing? And
Yeah, because there were two game
Bank and
modes
robbers?
in the beta, and
Yeah,
And
there
it was
two in the
like-
beta.
so you had the one where you stole money from the other person. It wasn't like a vault; it was like an armored truck, basically, that you'd go and you collect money out of, and then you run and take it to your armored truck. And one team is one faction, and then you're the other faction, and then the other one I'm having a moment trying to remember. It's been
Well, the
my
other
brain's full of other things.
yeah.
Now-
So go ahead.
in the clip, that guy grabbed the loot and he was holding it. What kind of mode is that? Is that the one that tried to take your money to the vault or whatever, the armed truck?
Well, yes. So in Heist, you take basically a giant bag of money from the armored truck to like a drop-off point. Like that's your goal. That's where you have to take it. In Blood Money, you use those giant bags to transport money from the vault. There's like a central vault. Like, it's not a vault. It's just a big pile of money in the middle of the map, basically.
That's right.
And each team has a vault in their home base, kind of. And the goal is to basically get $4 million or a certain amount of money into your vault.
Okay.
So at its simplest, you go from the money pile to your vault and ferry the money back and forth. But the other team can go to your vault and take your money and bring it to theirs. So you can go to their vault. So it goes back and forth, and it's just kind of, there's different strategies in there, but they're not so like hardly ingrained that they don't become fun. It's not so tactical. It can be. There were certainly moments where it was like, okay, you know what? Instead of getting more money for our team, let's go steal their money. So you get that back and forth. It's like, there's that. And then they announced that rescue mode. They got Hotwire, which is another mode. This is where, and I'm reading from the website, criminals are trying to steal a list of marked cars while the cops are trying to repossess them. So there's like this theme of this back and forth, right? Which I think can be a lot of fun.
And what about that money going up on the right-hand corner of whatever the scoreboard or the
That
health?
was, I think, how much money was in your vault.
Ah, okay. So that's not actually your points.
Well, you do earn experience through money, I think. Wasn't that how it worked? And then you buy... you don't unlock gadgets, you buy them. Like, you purchase them with money or
Yeah,
experience.
that's
that you earn.
easy. That's better than the unlocking an assignment or something.
You have some more control over it, I guess. You get to choose what you want to unlock.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need a third, laser sight for this
Yeah,
gun. I've already got
exactly.
4 colors.
Mhm.
Don't need more. I don't know. Okay, any other thoughts, Katie? Putting you on the spot. Just 'cause- What about it being pushed back to next year?
I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah.
I said it from the beginning that maybe the amount of time wouldn't have made that much difference, but I think Battlefield 4 should have been a Q1 release as well. I don't think it should have been released when it was.
Well, and also from a practical point of view, they're giving Battlefield players more time to play Final Stand whenever that comes out, so people don't jump ship right away. Which I've never been a big fan of this overload of DLCs. We've talked about it before, right? Where we get DLCs jammed down our throats, kind of thing. And
we did at the beginning, but I think it's spaced out now toward the end, which they had to kind of do that. But I'm fine with them delaying the release. I can wait.
Yeah, and they said they did it because they want to make sure it's
polish
more
it,
time to work on it and stuff, which is cool. And they also announced that they're going to have a CTE, just like they have for BF4, right from the start. Now, I haven't played the CTE in Battlefield 4 in a while. I got rid of it a while ago because there was not many people playing it. I didn't have that much time to play Battlefield as it was. And but from what I understand, there's a lot of that have been made to the CTE and that we still haven't seen yet in the Battlefield, in the core game of it. And I'm kind of wondering, like, let's get to those. Let's get to them before Final Stand comes out, because as soon as Final Stand comes out, a lot of people are going to play that for 2 weeks, and then they will be done with Battlefield 4. I'm just going to wait for a CTE patch to come sometime in January. So I'd like to see some of those changes, and some of them are gameplay changes, some of them are UI changes with like the little medic counter, like the little counter as to how long you have to revive somebody. So there's some good stuff there. And then we've talked about the CTE in the past and how it has certain benefits.
My only thing though is with the CTE is that's why you run a fucking beta.
Well,
why are we having, you know what I mean? Like, why is this beta going on during the entire live release of this game? Can anyone answer that question for me? I understand needing like constant, support for the game, and that's great. I really appreciate that, but that's what it is.
Yeah, and they also have, there's ongoing changes, and it does help to do that. And in Battlefield 2, they did this whole thing where they released patches as betas, public beta patches, but that got messy. Because then, people had to decide. They had to install 2 copies, and it was just not as organized. Whereas with Origin and CTE, it's pretty easy. So, I don't know. I don't know how much people are going to use it. If good things happen and Hardline plays well when it comes out, why would people be participating in the CTE? Not many people do it now. And you could argue that Battlefield 4 still needs it. So I don't know, but I think it's their little buzzword now of this is a good thing. We'll have this for the next game to reassure people that things will be in place. But to be honest, the CTE is no good if patches take 6 months to be implemented in the main game. That's too long. Work on one thing, patch it. Do that on a monthly basis. Don't collect them all and then 6 months, here is a huge mega patch that changes the game entirely, because the CTE plays a lot different from the regular game. And I've said this before, that I'm not a big fan of these large patches that drastically alter the game. Make small changes.
It's a patch.
Well,
not
yes,
a bandage.
And I think going back to the 5 platforms, part of that complicates that. Especially, they've already given up on patching the 360 and the PS3 in sort of any timely manner or in any way related to the PC and the next-gen consoles. They've just kind of been like, nope, that's just not, no. You're not getting that maybe next year. But it does take longer when you have to patch for 3 different platforms that you don't have a lot of control over. It takes time and complicates things, so.
And I don't want to wait 1 hour for a patch to download and install and then play later, and then you find out it's even worse.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts? BF2 was a mess, patch-wise. BF2 was a horrible mess. The amount of bad patches that BF2 had, like game-breaking patches, were horrible. Any final thoughts?
It's been so long, I don't remember.
Uh, okay, so do we even know when Final Stand's coming out? In the fall, right? I don't think we have any more specific.
No. I would assume probably October, November.
Yeah, around the time that Hardline was originally supposed to come out.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Plus, isn't Advanced Warfare coming out November 4th?
I don't know if that's the exact date, but that's the usual sort of drop date for a COD game. And there is going to be another beta for Hardline, so you'll get a chance to play it as well. It'll be in January, an open beta. So they'll have that again. That's really more of a demo at that point then.
I don't know if I want to play the beta or not. Just get it all ready and then release it, and then once it's released, I'll play. I don't want to do the beta. It's too... I have to think what's wrong with it, and then I have to figure it out.
So you just want it to be a surprise.
Yeah, I just want to play surprised.
Don't tell me you're going to shit in my food. Just do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
He just wants surprise butt sex. Just boom, there it is. No warning.
Okay. I think we've probably talked that to death for now.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do I turn this off?
Well, where are we going next with this?
With what?
With this conversation, because I have to pee, so I'd love to use the head while you transition.
Okay. You go do that. I will transition, and when you come back, we can talk about your video.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Podcast. One thing we can do though, is if there's any questions in the chat, we can talk about any of that stuff. Or if you have any thoughts, we haven't played a lot of BF4 together lately. Have you still been playing it a bunch?
Not lately. I usually do it maybe once every 2-3 weeks.
Oh, so very little.
Very little.
But you played the crap out of BF3.
Yeah, well, yeah. I played BF3.
BF2.
Yeah, BF2 too. Yeah. But I don't know, BF4. First of all, I just don't have time. I have been just working a lot lately. And once I come home, I'm just sitting on a couch watching TV. So
you don't have a lot of time to play a game. When you do play, though, are you enjoying it for the most part? And what do you play DLCs or just anything?
Yeah, I do enjoy it. Once I play like 4 or 5 hours straight. So, I mean, it's not like I don't think about it.
You still have fun with it.
Yeah, I do. So.
Final Stand maps, proposed names, Arctic Research, Subbase, Walker Factory, Titan. Yeah, so, okay, that's a good point, Addison. So there's this ongoing idea that some of that themed, like, it might be related to Battlefield 2142. I think you played more 2142 than I did. Or, no, you played less, because that thing never worked with you.
Nope.
Because of that, or yep. EA Downloader? Is that what it was called? It's like a version prior to Origin. It was a horrible disaster.
Yeah, that never worked out. 2142. No.
Katie, did you play much Battlefield 2142 at all?
Mm-mm.
So the map names, supposedly, for Final Stand are Arctic Research, Subbase, Walker Factory, and Titan. So there's this idea that it somehow may tie into 2142. Same with that that screenshot of that hover thing that we've seen before.
Yeah.
You think that they'd be able to do that? I don't know. I don't know how they would tie that in. I can't really see that, but I don't know. I can't really make sense of. I have no idea. Anytime that we talk about DLCs and the themes that they've given us, I mean, Final Stand seems, like maybe there's some nuclear warfare involved in some way or another, but that doesn't feel like Battlefield, though, either. It seems gimmicky. Chat thinks that Final Stand is all about nukes. Maybe. I have no idea. 2142 was Addison's favorite game. 2142 was It's funny. It was not one of the most popular
Really?
Battlefield games, but
2142?
yeah, the people who loved Battlefield 2142 loved it a lot. So
I like the fact that it was in the air sometimes. What kind of map was that? I can't remember, but in a spaceship?
yeah, all the Titan maps. I don't remember what the names were, but Titan mode.
1942, yeah, maybe 1942, but 2142?
There's a murderer in your lap. Just thought you should know that.
Yep. My little killer here.
Not killed anything today, has he?
No, just a bird 3 days ago, and then the possum last night.
So, tell people about the video that we put up.
We posted today.
Yeah.
So, Ola ChalkOne challenged me to the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. So the video went up, what was it, like 9 a.m. today? Went up early this morning.
About 9
this
o'clock
morning.
my time, like 11 yours.
Yeah. And I got dunked into a dunk tank full of ice water. It was like 110 pounds of ice. It was really, really cool. It was a lot of fun to do, though. And the people I did it with, they own a thing called High Jump Party Rentals, which they do like dunk tanks and those big blow up, bouncy houses and stuff. So they donated the use of the dunk tank for me instead of, I didn't have to rent it or anything.
They did it themselves too, so they
so
yeah,
they joined me in doing the challenge, and it was a lot of fun. And so for the first 24 hours that the video's up, every like that the video gets, I'm going to donate $1 for each like. And then you tweeted that you were going to match my donation. So, which I thought was very cool. Very, very kind of you. So we're, trying to raise awareness of ALS, which, I've read a lot about it. It's kind of things about what it does to your body. And it's like, imagine trying to go to sleep and laying there in bed and not being able to move, and then you have an itch on your face. Or, trying to take a 40-pound weight and all day lift back up and down to your mouth, like trying to eat.
Yeah.
And so the ice bucket challenge, people are like, well, why this? It's supposed to simulate kind of the muscle tremors and the shivers that people with ALS can get. It's one of the symptoms. So when that shock of that cold water hits you, you really do. It is a shock. And, I went full body. I went all the way down and made sure I was completely drenched by the time I looked like a drowned cat by the time I got out of that dunk tank. But it was so worth it. So if you haven't seen the video, it's on our YouTube. I'm sure Chalk will post a link here in a second. Like it, share it, send it out, break my bank.
Not too much of it.
Not too much though.
Yeah, it is a cool video, and I think it's actually gotten a fair bit of views, which is nice. So, there was a little bit of talk earlier, just at the very end, as far as what will be coming next year as far as a Battlefield title. I think one of the reasons Scanner said that maybe they moved Hardline back into next year as well was because they don't really have any other Battlefield plans for next year. So, which makes sense. Yeah, we talked about this before, because we know DICE is working on the Star Wars game, so that's a lot of resources committed there. He's so cute sitting there, just like that.
He wants to say hi.
Doesn't look like a murder.
Say hi. He's my little buddy. He's getting a bath later.
Does he like the bath, or does he not like the bath?
He loves the bath.
Aww.
Loves the bath.
Okay. Let's have Trooper say goodbye to the chat, and we'll end the podcast with him waving at us.
We should have him dunk in the tank too.
No.
All right, thank you guys for watching in the chat, and we'll there's a couple things we'll be doing. I know we're gonna do some more favorite loadout videos, because we got 2 classes left to do still, and we've been slacking.
We gotta do recon and support, and then we have a couple plans for some more of our basic tactics videos, and then
which is basically all the things that you most often yell about while playing Battlefield 4.
Yes.
Those.
Like I tweeted the other day about standing in the doorway, using the doorway for cover. Drives me insane.
And we'll also probably have some more of those short clips of just, you know, cool moments, fun moments.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was just like 30 minutes of TDM. We just jumped in to have a little fun, and you know what? We just kind of threw all our thoughts and angers and everything out the window, and just kind of had a little fun, you know, playing a game with your friends, which is, you know, kind of how it should be.
Yes, exactly. We got that, and hopefully we'll do a podcast again too, not too long. Might be a little while because I got some stuff coming up, but we'll do our best. And thank you, for driving all the way down here just so you could be on the podcast.
Thank you for joining us,
Thanks for inviting.
Oh my god.
What are you doing?
Fail 5. That's what that was.
You can see the wave from the back there.
Yeah.
Not if I don't show them my camera. Now do it again. Now you can do it. You can see
Like
the
that.
shadow. Okay. Good stuff. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Check out the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge Peekaboo Bang Dunk Tank video at youtube.com/Battlefield Podcast. And we'll catch you again soon with more stuff. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.